At the height of their fame, the iconic 80s rock band LoverBoy had 10 songs reach the top 40. The Canadian band released its first self-titled album in 1980, followed by 3 more multi-platinum albums over the next 5 years, quickly becoming MTV staples. The band soon found themselves on tour with rock's greatest artists like The Who, Journey, Cheap Trick, ZZ Top, and Def Leppard. Their classic rock hits, Working for the Weekend, Turn Me Loose, and When It's Over, are still on the airwaves today. Lead singer Mike Reno has contributed to hit soundtracks for blockbuster movies, including Footloose and Top Gun. To date, LoverBoy has sold more than 10 million albums and continues to tour extensively. The band's new single and video, Release, speaks of their devotion to rock and roll and their fans. Please welcome Mike Reno of LoverBoy to Face the Music.
Hi everybody, this is Mike Reno from LoverBoy, and it's time to face the music with Joby Rogers.
Let's start geographically. You grew up in a small town, in a small community of Penticton in British Columbia in Canada. And I know you stated that as a young music fan, you really appreciated when bands would go out of their way to come around to your town. Did that any way reflect on your current touring schedule, that you're hitting smaller towns like that?
It's always reflected on that. When Paul and I first put the whole thing together, we used to say, let's hit, instead of just hitting the A circuit, let's hit the B circuit, the C circuit. You know what? I think it really helped because we played all the little towns, and anything that had a hockey rink, even if it was a small one, we would play it. And it turned out it was a good thing for us. I think it really helped out, and it made me feel good because I grew up in a small town, and so did Paul.
So you were involved in bands since the age of 12, 13 years old. First as a drummer in your brother's Gibbons band, I think it was the Blue Web.
How do you know all this? This is great.
I've done some digging. And then continuing in 10th grade with other bands like Morning Glory, Synergy, Spunk, and then Moxie, mainly as a drummer and singer. You did Led Zeppelin covers, The Who, Deep Purple. So you eventually were persuaded by your bandmates to leave the sanctuary of the drum riser and you to get out front and be a lead singer. Was there any trepidation or fear in coming out from behind the kit?
Joby, are you kidding me? That's all there was fear. I said, no way. Actually, in Synergy is the time they got me to stand up. I initially went into that band with that band, started with those guys as the drummer singer. And after about, 6 months, the guys noticed, he said, you know what? The Who, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, all these groups have singers that stand in front, and work the crowd. Yeah, I'm not doing that, right? I'm just not doing it. I was totally nerve-wracked. It was like a big deal for me. It was like I had the drums are all around me. I had a double set of Ludwigs and all these cymbals. I'm not leaving this area. That's my comfort zone. And then finally they talked me into it. And they said, we got a guy who's really a good drummer, and then you can concentrate on just to sing it. And finally I did it. I succumbed. And then for the last half of Synergy, I was the stand-up vocalist. And then for the Spunk in Calgary, I was the vocalist, frontman, and also in Moxie. And then on, of course, to LoverBoy.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you stepped out.
Thank you.
So in '79, you meet Paul Dean by chance at a warehouse. I think it was behind the refinery.
That's correct, man. You really did some stuff.
And he had just been let go by his bandmates, I think on Christmas Day, and you weren't really feeling it anymore with Moxie. So he's kind of just sitting there in a wooden chair all by himself with a guitar. Did you know at that moment that this serendipitous meeting was different from all the previous musician prospect encounters? That this might be something special?
Well, first off, I didn't really know who was in that warehouse. I poked my head in the door, and he turned over almost, instinctively. And it was a big place. There was no way he knew I was looking through the door. I just poked my head in like this, and it was freezing cold, 40 below. It's in the middle, just north of Dakota. in Alberta. It's freezing. And he invited me in and introduced me. And I said, oh, wow. And I did feel a bit of sadness for him because it was right at Christmas time. And he told me that he'd been let go from his band, a band that he started. And not only did they let him go, but they kept all his equipment. It was basically like getting kicked in the balls. I could tell he was sad. I just wanted to kind of cheer him up. We ended up talking for a while, and then we ended up writing 2 songs that night. And I said, that was really great. I said, I have to go. I usually don't even stay up this late because when I got to Calgary a few weeks ago, I took a job on a construction site because I want to earn some money so I could head south to see my brother Steve, who's now living in Los Angeles. And pretty soon we ran into Doug Johnson, our keyboard player, even today. He was the first guy in after Paul and I. And then we were searching for a drummer and a bass player. We would drop by, and this was springtime by now, and we would drop by places and we'd go to concerts. And as soon as we walked in, I heard later that the bands all went, oh my God, there's Reno and Dean. They're coming here to steal some of our musicians. You know, it's like we were like doomsday when we walked in the door, you know, and that's really how we found a bunch of guys. So
let's talk about the new single release. Lyrically, the song speaks of you and your bandmates' devotion to rock and roll and to your fans. Musically, it's classic LoverBoy, but simultaneously manages to find a place in today's rock sound as well. And there is no doubt at all, Mike, that your vocals and the pipes are as strong as ever. So Paul originally commissioned the song for another band. Are you thankful that the circumstances led to LoverBoy releasing it?
You know, it's funny that you say this because I never knew that he was writing that for another band, but Paul wrote a lot of songs, so he was always working on songs. I only knew this song when we were together and we decided to finish it off lyrically, and then I decided to change a bit of stuff and add a few things, take a few things away, and we did it together. That's the first time we saw each other in quite some time. The rest of the song was recorded, the new system, with COVID, nobody wanted to travel. Nobody wanted to get together. Paul and I took a chance. We were both vaccinated. We said, let's do this. You know, we didn't wear masks. We just hung out in my music room at my place and I sang the song. Then we sent it off to Doug, who put the keyboards on it. And he lived close by, but we still sent it to him via the internet. Then we sent the tracks down to our drummer in North Carolina. He put all his stuff on. Then we sent it to Winnipeg, and our bass player, Spider, he played all the bass on it. Everything got sent back to Paul. He put his harmonies on it, fixed up all the guitar parts, tightened it up, mixed it, mastered it. And then he did a video, I got to give him all the credit, of just using old LoverBoy clips from all the concerts and footage we've done over the years. And I thought he did a bang up job.
So I want to ask you about the video. So the video combines decades old clips of the band with current concert footage. In the beginning of your epicenter fame, it was an endless day-to-day stream of radio and TV interviews and concerts and all of that. So you never really had the chance to kind of revel in the wonder of it all. Did that have any impact on the direction of the video to maybe relive some of those moments at the same time and appreciate this moment and what lies ahead?
Even the guys in the band, after they saw the video, they all wrote in, that was so great to see some of that old footage, because we all remember a lot of that stuff, where we were and what we were doing. You can just tell, you can always tell. It's like watching old stuff. You go, oh, I remember that was in whatever, that was there, and that was in Calgary, that was in Nashville. Paul and I actually put some new stuff in there. The opening line when I'm standing, I was sitting in my music room. It kind of looks like I'm in a big church. It's just, you know, and I just kind of, of course, my hair went white over the last 2 years. I just said, I'm just going to let it stay white, you know. And we just did it. It was kind of very organic, and I just felt like making it happen. But it was great to see the old clips, and I find it very fun. We wrote that song for the fans. We know, like, they know we stand up there. We're usually dressed in black. We're standing in front of our stacks. We're giving you right from the heart. We're giving it to you. We love you, and you know, together we're going to get this place going. And we need a release. That's really what it was written for the fans. It was written all about the fans.
You did this without a safety net of a label. You put it out on your own. So what are the challenges in your experience with working with and without a label?
Well, working with the label is one thing. They're kind of like to be honest with you, record companies are kind of like loan sharks. And it's at a certain stage in your lives, you don't really need a loan shark anymore. You know, we've worked for 40 years. We can do it ourselves. Thank you very much. We didn't really expect to sell anything. We just wanted to put something out. You know, to be honest with you, selling stuff nowadays, like, you know, you hear these reports, it had 40,000 listens. I have no clue what that means. That means 40,000 people listen to it. I don't know. Is there any money involved? I doubt it. So we don't even care. So we're writing stuff and putting it out with our own effort and our own expense. And we're giving it to the public in hopes that they come and see us live. That's all we really ask. We're not trying to sell anything, to be honest.
That song in the video hits hard. It comes out, boom. I mean, it's right there. It's you know who it is. You know what's going to happen. You know what's coming. So what do you think of your tendency to worship the primitive in rock and roll?
Rock and roll's all primitive, man. It's just all from the gut. It's all from the heart. You know, it's funny. I stand side stage. A lot of times I'm almost sick because I get horrible stage fright. It's anxiety. It gets worse as I get older. It's almost debilitating. Like it's almost like I'm going to regurgitate and throw up and have a horrible time. And then as soon as the lights come on, I jump out there, and it just comes from deep inside. I just turn into this guy and I just wail. It's just almost a religious experience. And honestly, you know, that's really what it is. You
co-wrote this song with Paul, I believe. So did songwriting come naturally to you, or were you taught by someone, or can you even be taught to songwrite?
Songwriting comes, actually, Paul's a very good songwriter. He writes more songs than I do, and he wrote the majority of this song, without a doubt. He, you know, he started it. We discussed things and changed things and made it better together, but it was really his baby. And songwriting is really difficult. It comes sometimes in a dream. It's sometimes when you're sitting with the guitar, the lick just comes and you have a melody. It's like lyrics and melody and music. When they go together like a nice rope, if you know how to tie a rope or weave, you know, weave a product. And when it happens, it gives you chills, it gives you chicken skin, it makes you go, where did that come from? And a lot of times you feel like it just dropped from the heavens into your brain, and then you just spill it out. And that's songwriting. When you sit there and force yourself to write a song, a lot of times it doesn't happen. But when it happens, wow, it is something else.
So you have that kind of divine intervention with some songs. They're all there. Yeah, they're there complete already. Completely.
That's a good way to put it.
How do you approach songwriting? Is it methodical, or do you wait for an inspiration?
A lot of time it starts with a lyric for me. I will think of a cool lyric and I'll go, that is a cool lyric. And then I'll put a riff to it, or Paul will. And when the riff and the lyric goes to it, you can almost feel where the melody should be. That's how I do it. And you know, Paul is kind of a carpenter. He pieces it together. He changes stuff. He's very good in the studio, so he could take a bunch of stuff and change it up. I'm more of a guy that sits with the chords and writes a lyric, and I would like to sing it right away, and then I have it. But it is a process, and it takes a while, and it takes a while to learn how to do that.
Your mom has your first gold record hung up on the wall above her fireplace, I believe. So 40 years later, what goes through your mind when you visit and you see that there?
I feel very proud. I remember the day that it happened. We were given a gold record, it was a beautiful nightclub that people used to play, like worldwide musicians, all the way back to the 20s. It was called The Cave in Vancouver. And we were actually, Bryan Adams played a set, and then we came on the stage. And just before we broke into the song, a surprise to us was people from the CBS Records walked up and said, hold it, hold everything, hold everything. We have a presentation. And they gave us our first gold records. I guess the record went gold the day before. We didn't really know. And so it was a real big surprise. So I gave my mom that gold record. I also gave my mom the first Juno Award we won. And a Juno Award is like a Canadian version of a Grammy. So we won, one year we won 7 of those. One year we won 7 of those. It was such a crazy time at the Juno Awards that year that Burton Cummings was the host. He was the MC. And he actually looked in the camera and said, we'll be right back with the LoverBoy Awards right after these words from our sponsor.
Classic.
And I got that award. I held it up in the air like this. And I said, this is for you, Mom. I said it right on. And that Juno Award also sits at her mantelpiece. So,
I mean, that's what every young man wants, you know, one day to have your mom in the front row looking at you up on stage under the lights. That's what, you know, that's the dream.
Sadly, she passed away about 2 months ago. But
oh, I'm sorry to hear
that. I know. She was in her 90s, so she was ready, you know, and it's like a circle of life, you know.
The classic rock hit, Turn Me Loose. You said it rolled around in your head for years. And at some point you finally asked Paul to help you out with it. With songwriting, at times it's very tedious. Do you or Paul retain any pressure from your past work when you work on new material?
Not really. You know, Paul Dean is like a brother to me. He's like a family member. We're very comfortable around each other. We know what we like. We know what we don't like. Paul knows me very well. I know him very well. And it's the same with all the guys in the band. We all know each other. We know which buttons not to push. We know which buttons to push if we really want to. We know how to get to people. You know, we do so many shows. We travel together. We fly together. We tour bus together. You know, we play together. We have backstage. We get dressed together. You know, it's like a football team. You know, it really is. We're a band of brothers, that's for sure. And writing's the same thing. Paul knows to bring me stuff, and he knows that we're going to change it and make it better. I think he knows we're going to make it better. That's why he comes over. You know, he comes over with stuff. I come over to his place with stuff.
Well, speaking of that, in order for LoverBoy and you personally to grow and improve musically, it is incumbent that your audience also broadens their perspective of you, as well as being willing to grow with you. You know, careers can become kind of antiquated or stagnant if your audience doesn't want you to grow. They want to keep hearing the same stuff. How do you persuade your fans to continue this musical journey with you?
You know, it's funny. We have, I know a lot of bands say this, but we really do have some great dedicated fans. And yeah, I'll tell you something. We went through a period where we would change things around a little bit, and we could just see and feel that the people really would rather have it just the way they remember it. I think the music that we created, and in the time that we created it, I think it became part of people's, if I could be so bold as to say, part of people's DNA, part of their makeup. Like, I'll give you an example of how crazy it can be. I've had at least 200 people come to me and say, you guys played my high school dance, and it was so great, right? Do you know how many high school dances we actually played? 0. So that means that they were playing us on the stereo, or playing us at the dance, or playing us in the car, or playing us at the after party, and we were part of their scene. And that for people to think that we played at their grad, that really says something to me. I mean, it really says something to me.
Absolutely. So you've said that you thought your hit "When It's Over" could have been a better charting song, and you said it's one of your favorites to perform on stage. Are there other songs in your catalog that weren't singles or hits that you would like to see get their moment in the sun?
Well, you know what? I think our moment in the sun, as it were, has happened. I'm not going to be greedy and ask for it to happen all over again. I like the moment. This moment seems to be getting longer. It was like this, then it's like this, and now it's like off the chart. We've had a great, well, we're still having a great moment. You know the song "Take Me to the Top"? We break into that song and the crowd goes crazy. They love that, and I do too. They love that intro. It kind of reminds me of like a dinosaur walking across the stage. I didn't expect it to be a single. Another song I think is really great is "Lucky Ones," Only the Lucky Ones. It just says something. It's just real powerful. It's "Loverboy." Queen of the Broken Hearts. That was a great video we did for that.
So on January 8th, you turned 67.
That's correct.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
So celebrating 4 decades of Loverboy, how do you carry the heritage and the legacy of the band forward through all these years, but manage to keep it fresh and relevant for yourself, as well as new fans that you connect with along the way?
Well, that's the hardest part of the whole deal. Keeping it fresh. You know what it is? This it's like these songs and the guys in the band. It's almost like a beautiful picture. And you don't really want to change it. You just want to let it happen. And I know we do it over and over again, but we still love doing it. Now, we could throw some new songs in here and there, but only like a small percentage of the people are really going to like that. What they really want to hear, and we know what they really want to hear. And we're not going to be so selfish that we don't play it. So it's kind of like you have to deliver, and then you have to learn to enjoy. And that's the best way I can put it.
All right, I got something for you here. I want to talk ZZ Top for a moment. I know you were close with the fellas, and I want to first offer my condolences for Dusty Hill. Tremendous loss for rock and roll. And
It's a huge loss.
I know that at one time you were on the same bill as ZZ, and you had an airline mishap with your instruments and your clothes. And Bill Gibbons was nice enough to lend Paul his guitar. I think it was Betsy.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Most bands would have not done the show. What it was is when the airlines decide they're not going to fly, but they have all your equipment, cars and your suitcases. We're sitting there in our shorts and flip-flops, t-shirts, getting ready to fly to, I think it was Chicago. And they canceled the flight. We couldn't change the flight and get there in time. So we did something. I think we might have rented a private plane, huge money, but we wanted to get there. So we got there. And they wouldn't give us our luggage because they were going to rebook it or something. So they kept our luggage. We flew in the private plane. We got there. We got picked up at the airport, went to the place. We told the guys, they said, we don't have any equipment. So we phoned ahead and they brought in some keyboards from a local music store and a set of drums, a small set of drums. And it was cool when Billy Gibbons walks in our dressing room, because he's a pretty cool dude, right? And he holds the guitar out and he goes, "Hey, Paul, I hear you're kind of missing your gear. How would you like to have a crack at old Betsy here?" And it was like a gold top Les Paul that Paul plays. Paul's got an old one too. And I thought that was a very touching moment. And it really showed the friendship between the two bands. Huh?
There's one story I want you to share with my audience. So ZZ's management at that time had strict rules about any opening acts fraternizing with the band. Don't talk to them, don't look at them. And when you were on the same bill and you had some harsh words with the audience at one time, and you were warned of that as well. So I'll set the stage here, and just by saying ZZ Top, hockey rink, shower.
Wow, what an intro. Well done, sir. So Joby, here's what happened. Not only did the management for ZZ Top just want to be, left alone, because I can imagine what happens. Oh, it's ZZ Top. So our management too says, go in there, play the show, and get the hell out of there. Don't talk to them. Don't even watch them. Just play the show and get to the next town. Because we were on tour together for like 8 months. It was the best tour. And I can't even imagine it better, other than the fact that we did that tour with Journey. But anyways, this was one of those times when we really had a hit record out, and it was just marvelous. So we do the show, and this is the first show. And in the audience, I sometimes get a little bit rough with them. I'm not mad at them. I just get them. I would, I F this and F this. Come on, get off of your effing seats. Come on, get. So I'm doing this, just doing my regular shtick. And then Paul joins in with a couple of his F bombs. Next thing you know, the show's over. We go to the dressing room, and these hockey rinks, there's about 12 showers. So we turn them all on full. And then you get those metal chairs they got, and you go in there and you put the shower, and it's on your back, and you're stretching your back, and you go, and you're all sweaty. And as the place is completely steamy, you can't really see more than 8 feet away. It's just, steamy. Picture that. Next thing you know, at the entrance to the shower area, you see these 3 shadows come up, and there's 3 of them standing there. And we hear, "Who's Trash Mouth?" And all the guys point at me, and they go, "It's him." He goes, "Well, Trash Mouth, we just want to say you got that audience riled up real good. Welcome to the tour, boys. I think we're going to have some fun this time." And then they just did that thing where they go like this. And like
the ZZ Top.
I kid you not. And they just disappeared. And then we all looked at each other and went, "Did that really happen?" You know what I mean? It was unreal. It was unreal.
One more. Wild Turkey Bite.
Oh God. Well, after we got into playing together every night, we would get we were well received because we had a hit single out at the time. So we would play and play, and it'd be great. We'd say goodnight, and we'd walk off the stage. And you always want to get an encore. So we left a little time in our set to go back up and get an encore. So I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs, just kind of composing myself before I run back up and sing another song or two. Well, after a while, every night, Billy Gibbons would come and put his arm around me, almost like a chokehold. And in one hand, he'd have this glass with this dark liquid in it, about 2 inches full. And he'd go, "Hey, Reno, you want to get up there and sing some more songs?" And I'd look at him and I'd go, "Yeah, Billy, I do." He's got me like an armor. And he goes, "Well, I guess you're going to have a little wild turkey bite before you go. Come on, son, take it down." And I had to drink this wild turkey. To this day, if I smell wild turkey, I just want to vomit. It's just, because straight wild turkey. And I'm a singer too, and I don't really want to have a bunch of alcohol on my vocal cords at the end of the night. But you know what? It just happened. So I just went with it. And I got a little buzz going too.
One more then. John Cougar, Jack Daniels, Hurt So Good.
How do you know all this stuff? This is really cool. Okay, this is at, I think it's called Sun God Stadium in Phoenix. Big outdoor stadium. It's a football stadium. Big concert. We're coming up right behind, I think the headliner was The Who. And right under The Who was LoverBoy. And right under LoverBoy was John Cougar at the time. He wasn't John Cougar Mellencamp yet. He was John Cougar. Now, John Cougar, and we're sitting around, he's playing his set. He's into about his 4th song. And he's saying something to the audience. He's just cussing them out real good, He goes, "What are you doing? Blah, come and look at this. Do you like our song? What are you just sitting there?" He's doing something like that. Next thing you know, somebody throws a bottle of Jack Daniels up, hits him right in the head, cold cocks the bugger. He falls back on the stage, and we didn't really know what was happening. We just heard the music stop. And then the guy who's running the whole concert thing, he runs over and he goes, "You guys get ready." He goes, "What do you mean? We're not on for another hour." He goes, "You're on in 10 minutes. Johnny Cougar just got cold cocked." And so we run back to the dressing room to get ready. And all of a sudden he starts playing Hurt So Good. And I went, that son of a bitch came up with the perfect, that is a perfect scenario, right? It's like you could make a movie around that, right? That one move, right? "Hey, Joby, this is all stuff I was going to put in my book. I don't have to write a book anymore. You got it all."
So in the late 90s, in an interview, you said that grunge groups like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, I'm sure you heard this before, were the death of 80s rock. So bands like LoverBoy, REO Speedwagon, and Styx, were having a tough go of it. So now, some 30 years later, you're selling out arenas with REO Speedwagon and Styx and a trio headlining show. Do you feel like you've gotten the last laugh?
My comment at the time was, was Nirvana killed my career. So that was a little bit drastic, right? Which wasn't, but at the time when the record companies dropped us, they dropped all of the bands. Radio stations changed; they wouldn't play us anymore. We did think that the grunge thing really did put a stop to it. But then, luckily, of course, with classic rock radio and shows like this, the internet, and stuff like that, it came back. And you know what? We've played with either Styx or REO for the last, I'm going to say 35, 40 years. And then to have 40 shows coming up this summer in all the big outdoor venues that we played for years with these two bands, who both of those bands asked us to be on that tour. It wasn't organized by Live Nations or management. It was organized by the band members. So that's kind of neat. That's a nice respect for each other. And I appreciate those guys. I love those guys. And I love their music. So I think it's going to be one heck of a tour.
Awesome. Absolutely. I've seen you. I've seen you only one time live, and it was with I think you were opening for Journey at that time, and it was awesome. Awesome.
Wow. They had Escape Out. That's their biggest record to date, and we had Get Lucky, our biggest record to date, and apparently that was the tour of the year. That was the #1 tour of the year, and boy, was that ever good. I love Steve Perry's voice. If you're a Steve Perry fan, never mind Neil Sean and the drummers and that. I mean, these guys were so good.
Rock is no longer the music epicenter as it was, from the 50s to the 80s, basically. Now it's all about, like you were saying, streaming and ad-based and how many clicks you can get. How does LoverBoy navigate that reality?
Well, to be honest with you, we don't really care about that anymore. I don't care about, you know what I care about? I care about being ready to hit that stage in June and look out at the audience of 20,000 people and just say, thank you, let's rock on. I don't care. I don't really need the money anymore. I don't really care. I really don't. I'm not going to fight for it. I'm not going to beg for it. If it's happening, it's happening. If it's not, it's not. I do this because I love it. And all the other guys are the same. We love it.
There's a true freedom in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel.
Yeah. So personally, I've gotten more inspiration from music than anything else in my life. Not from religion, not from education. Music spoke to me in a way that a religious service or a teacher or a friend or a family member could not. It gave me a deeper understanding of myself, and I'm moved by music that has tangible qualities. You get the goosebumps, the hair on the back of your neck rises up. So, and you can get that when you go to a show, and you can tell when a singer's being honest and genuine about what they're doing. What has music taught you about Mike?
Wow. Well, there's a truth. A lot of our lyrics are true. They're about relationships that we've had, ones that have failed, ones that have done very well, ones that have gone away. It also, you know what it is for me is there's a dedication and there's a super respect. I have dedication to my craft and I have respect for what I've done. I'm not saying that, and what I've done is I've related to people and made a lot of friends and fans along the way. And most of the fans are friends as well. And what they tell me gives me goosebumps, how, for instance, Turn Me Loose has changed their life. Or when they got married, they listened to Almost Paradise. Or all these different things that happened. It seems like I really did something, and I'm very proud of it, but I respect it.
Like you, I'm sure. I had the opportunity to travel quite a bit, especially abroad. And I found that travel is fatal to prejudice, to bigotry, to narrow-mindedness. You learn basically that all people cry, laugh, work, worry, and die. Was traveling with the band and as a solo artist a similar experience for you?
Well, I gotta tell you, like, especially years ago, traveling in there were definite zones. I mean, even in North America, like you can have your zones and you got your northeastern zone and everybody's really, they're really into it. They're into it just about everywhere. But as you go further south, you find a whole different lifestyle down there, and you kind of gotta make a few little changes. You know what I mean? And I've seen stuff where the Rolling Stones talked about it the same way. You know, you cruise into like an area, and you go in to get something, and people looking at you like you're, you know, because you got long hair, or you're in a rock band. I mean, I've dealt with all that too, and a real experience in Europe was kind of interesting. I remember when we were in France, I noticed there's a peculiar smell. You go in, and it's because nobody wears deodorant over there, right? So I'd walk in to do the show, and we're with Def Leppard, and the place is packed. I'm in my dressing room. You don't really notice it. You come out, you walk up the stairs onto the stage, and you go, "What in the hell?" Yeah, I mean, there's different things of everywhere you go, and it's just a different smell, the different foods, the different tastes, hotel rooms. You know, it's all, I've experienced it all.
I've been an entertainer for most of my life, actually, and the one thing that I still contend with is the eccentricity of being on stage in front of thousands of people or hundreds of people at sometimes for a couple hours, and then, you know, literally moments after the curtain falls, you're completely isolated, some hotel room. It's such an absolute juxtaposition of energy. So during these moments, have you ever had the internal dialogue of what your onstage persona thinks of your offstage persona?
Wow, that's a question and a half right there. Well, you know what I do, and this may maybe explain what I'm talking about, Joby, but I do when I'm in my hotel and I'm relaxing, I'm saving up my energy for the show. I shower, I change, and believe it or not, I iron my own clothes. And when I'm doing it, I'm preparing mentally like a gunslinger would prepare for a gunfight in the wild, wild west. My clothes are ironed and they're laid on the bed, and I look at them and I approve them. And then I put them on. And the last thing I put on is my headband and sunglasses. And I look in the mirror and I kind of go like this: I'm ready. And change into this guy, Mike Reno, the rock guy. And then after the show, I'm reading a book in bed with one light on. And, you know, it's just a completely different thing. But when I walk out there, I have to be this guy. So I think I have created a Mike Reno persona.
That all matters to your show. I mean, doesn't like that walk down the hallway in the hotel and the walkbacks, that all makes or breaks a show for me, it does. You know, you can tell when it's going to be there and when it's not going to be there.
Exactly. And I do the walk thing. I go down the hallway and I meet at a place, and we all meet there. And it's kind of like you're meeting at the saloon in the old noon. And then you see everybody, and everybody's totally relaxed. And as you get closer to the backstage, people start moving their shoulders, doing their drumstick things, and just shaking their arms, rolling their neck. And then you get into the dressing room, and there's just some food and some things there, and you kind of get ready, and then you start warming up the voice. It's a whole thing.
To me, I missed that part of everything the most over the last 2 years than anything else.
Yeah, I miss seeing my guys. I mean, we've been together for so long. I really miss these guys, and I don't really miss flying around and tour bussing, but I like it for about a week, you know. But moving like this for 8 hours because you're in the tour bus, and no matter where you go, it's still moving. And if the guy hits the brakes, you hit the wall with your. I mean, people go, "This must be so great. You got that big, beautiful bus," and I just go, I don't think you really want to know how great it is, because it's tough out there on the road. It really is. And then there's the whole missing of the family and missing things. Like, for instance, you know, Thanksgiving and all these things like that. I don't even know when they are. Like, I don't even know the dates because we're never there for them. You know, and so why would you remember it? Most people in the United States know exactly when Thanksgiving is and all those things. They know the exact week. They know that. You know, I have no clue. I can't even, you know, because we never participated.
Yeah. So music, more than anything, is the universal element that connects everybody, every human. It's the one thing that every human can relate to. So to what extent, if any, do you feel music has the potential of being transformative or a way of changing people's ideologies?
Well, I think music is healing. I think it's very healing. From the soft stuff that you kind of rest and build up your energy to the stuff where lyrics actually come out and change people's perception on what's happening, change people's attitude about things, about what, all kinds of things. And it comes from all kinds of different artists. Music is colorful like a rainbow. There's so much to see, and there's so much pigment. It's just all different styles and forms and colors. It's just, music really is the best thing. And I think it's transformed me many times. I mean, I changed into a different person when I put on Asia by by Steely Dan. I'm just a totally mellow guy. I just go, okay, great, good. Music just really sets me down that road, right? I think it's the same for everybody.
I'm not going to get political, but this is in semblance of rock and roll and this. Rock and roll by its nature is a rebellion against the establishment since its roots in blues music. From its foundations in blues that spoke out against oppression, to Elvis, to the Beatles, to the Clash, to the pushback in the 80s against the PMRC. So what do you think the role of artists specifically needs to be in today's highly charged political climate?
I don't want to be in this I don't want to take a light look at this, but in my opinion, and this is my opinion, music kind of neutralizes everything and takes you away from that kind of crap. That's, I think, why people enjoy concerts. There may be all kinds of weird shit happening in their lives, but as soon as you're at that concert and you hear the stuff and you remember what you did and who you were with and how great it was and whatever happened, you're not really thinking about one party or another or any of the difficult issues that are out there. And I hope that people even forget about COVID. Just forget about it. That's kind of like the release, right? Just like that song we were talking about. But I don't think music is political at all. I personally don't think it is. Maybe some of the country stuff gets a little bit political, and maybe some of the U2 stuff gets pretty political. My band has never been very political.
On the other side of that coin, in the semblance of artists like Marley and Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye, Springsteen, Baez, Dylan, Rage Against, yeah, they've used their platform to speak out against political and racial and environmental issues. Do you think it's an artist's duty to reflect the times, or do you think it's better to use your voice, risk losing fans, or just kind of, like you were saying, just keep it on the stage?
It depends who you are. Like you just mentioned, a lot of very classic dudes that have changed a lot of perception of a lot of things. All those people you mentioned. And those are the kind of bands we need to do that. And sometimes you need bands just to have fun with, I'm going to go to see Billy Idol. I'm not really going to be thinking much about what's going on in California politics. I just want to see Billy Idol sneer at me and get that beat going and have that guitar player playing all those great riffs. But groups like you mentioned, Springsteen does it a lot. So does Edge and Bono in U2. They do it a lot, and rightly so, and they deserve it. They lived in a place, and that's what they took on as basically, I think they took that on as their job. It's their responsibility. I and my band, on the other hand, decided not to. And we actually talk about it too. Do we really want to do that? And there's so many bands that do it. And I hope I'm not a cop-out by not doing it, but I want to entertain people and make them forget some of their worries. And I hope that's not a cop-out.
It's not a cop-out, because there are people who want to go to a show to be at a show.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You're in the car alone, on the road. What's playing?
Wow. Probably Tom Petty, Eddie Money. Got to have my Eddie Money. Dear friend, sad that he's gone. We spent a lot of time together. He needed something to do to get away from some of his habits, so to speak. So we went and we golfed together, and it took him a while to figure out a little bit of the etiquette. He's kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. What are you talking about? You want me to stand where? One of those kind of things.
When was the last time you did something for the first time?
I'm working on an old car, and I did something to the car that I used to get other people to do. And because the other people aren't around right now, I attempted to do it myself for the first time. And I realized that I need to learn a little more about redoing a brake in a 57 Porsche Speedster Carrera. I should probably get a professional to help me.
What movie have you repeatedly watched?
Well, I don't even want to go rom-com on everybody, but I just love watching Apocalypse Now. The movie Being There is probably one of my favorite movies, especially when he walks on the water. And I don't know if a lot of people remember Being There, but it's great. And sadly, maybe not sadly, but I love watching Notting Hill every time it comes on.
You're allowed one book in your possession. What is it?
Wow. Well, it won't be the Bible, I'll tell you that much. I find it a little difficult to read. One book, huh? Wow. I've always wanted to read Mein Kampf, which, just because it created such a stir, it's almost something I feel like I should read.
My one book is the Kahil Gibran, The Prophet.
So, well, that goes back. I read that when I was like 17.
Yes, love that book. Favorite cartoon character growing up?
Boy. I'm going to have to go with the Roadrunner.
What's a habit you'd like to break?
Jeez. I'm a hard habit to break. I've broken most of my bad habits. Just trying to be a good boy at this stage of my life. I guess I should probably cut down on the red wine. I drank 2 bottles the other day, not by myself, and somebody mentioned, he says, you drank 2 bottles. I said, well, I didn't drink it by myself. You have a few glasses, then you have a couple more, and so probably cut back on the red wine now. I don't know. I guess it's probably a habit. You're right.
All right, before we go, I just want to say thank you for doing this. And do you have any comments on this interview or anything you'd like to add?
You know what? This has been a really intelligent interview. It's one of the most intelligent interviews I've done in a long time. You made me think a lot about things, and you had some fantastic questions that were really different. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. And I hope to see you down the road. I'd like to check out one of these gigs. I think you're coming to the East Coast later in the summer. I'm in Connecticut. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the first page. And then it goes all the way to the end, the 6th page. These are all shows, big shows. You see this?
Yeah.
That makes me nervous.
You ready for that?
I don't think I am ready for that.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Much appreciated, man. Be safe out there.
All right, Joby. Nice talking to you, man.
You too. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Ciao.